Welcome back to the PCS 2022 Spring Split. My name is Hysterics. I am joined by Mr. Climate Chew. The PCS that is sponsored by CDBC Bank and Caliber. Remember to thank Riot Games, Carry Live, and Garena for PCS League operations and organizing Mr. Chew, PSG Talon, draft diff in our first game. Now, they're playing another game against Frank Esports, and we're going to ask ourselves how they're feeling because after that first game watching, that was really cleanly played.
Yeah, that was just... I think a completely surgical dismantling of CFO and kind of the mythos of them being the best laning phase team. Now we have a very different opponent. I think this is an opponent that knows each other incredibly well, incredibly intimately, as we have two teams that are battling as our Hong Kong representatives, and you have Eminem, who is the understudy of Unified, and you also have Pretender, who is on the bench of PSG before Bay came in and took his spot. So there's a lot of personal storylines on who actually is the better representative of Hong Kong.
I mean, a loan out here from Pretender, so it's kind of funny because Pretender's been kicking, a lot of butt for a while and has really been ramping up this split. On the other side of PSG Talon, we look through the roster once again. In that last game, you can say that Bay had a pretty decent game on the rise. Juhan here coming through was really doing work with his mid laners, so I think you can say a lot of similarities across the board. As we look at Frank Esports, Clement, we've already talked about PSG. I just wanted to keep talking until we got Frank up on our screens. You and I were talking about Pretender, man. This guy's Vex last game was so good to watch.
It was absolutely insane. He got a 4-chain Shadow Surge, and he went in against 4 JT members to kill Lil V before any of them could react. If you haven't seen that game, I highly suggest you go catch the highlights on that one. And I think the most important thing here is I feel like Frank Esports, even though I'm not going to give them much chance to outsmart PSG in terms of the macro sense, I do think they can outmuscle them. And that's not something that we would have said in previous splits. For me, Eminem and Unified, they're actually fairly close players. Eminem at times even took over the leading role against Unified, some cases during the HKA era. So they're definitely very familiar with each other, and it's always interesting when players are close because you really get to see some of these niche picks that they might have practiced against each other.
Yeah, that's true. And again, you talked about being the understudy of Unified. Unified often looked at as the best AD carry in the league. Eminem, a focus here on Frank Esports. Makes sense that we're looking at AD carries despite having a big chat about mid. And when I look at Eminem ahead, like I see a laner that adds so many options here for Frank Esports, and most of the time, I think we can say that, Clement, while some of the map's burning a bit, Eminem always seems to be in a great position in these lanes.
Yeah, Frank Esports definitely focuses him the most. They give him tremendous amounts of gold. They give him more gold than RNG used to give Uzi. So for comparison, he's getting 30% of the team's gold. I've never seen stats that have been that skewed ever. Wow. So you just see the sort of trust that they have in Eminem to get them out of late game situations. However, Frank Esports, if you're looking across the board, this is not a team that has a particularly strong early game. I feel like, especially for Kurt, his role on the team is kind of nebulous. We have seen Kurt just be more of a Gragas player, and I feel like that's why they're smirking all across the board as they see the Akali and Tryndamere bans go through. Yeah. It's like, I just want to play Gragas. What are you guys banning that for?
Oh, God. Well, another solo ladder comes through on the rise. Notice the Zeri banned as well. Eminem's had his time on that champion and won't be given back. Unified, of course, needs to be banned against. So the 100% continues here in the PCS. And as we go through, I want to point out it is 12.4. We do have Renata enabled. You guys haven't seen it. You didn't see it yesterday, and we haven't seen it looked at all. So kind of a shame that we are getting some of the newer champions banned, but Renata still goes through.
this is a tremendous amount of respect for Kurt. I don't think I've ever seen this ban strategy. Triple potential top lane bans going into Kurt's way, and frankly, Kurt just hasn't looked all that impressive on the Tryndamere. I think he's had a couple of good Gwen games for sure. Realistically, this should be, I was going to say like jungle first draft, but they're going to go for the Jinx instead.
Okay.
Interesting enough, like usually when we see triple top lane, it's you're kind of just going for jungler and making sure that you can play through jungle mid. Maybe PSG don't have that in mind and are just going to lock down into the Jinx. But honestly, I feel like both of these teams are fairly comfortable with going Jinx or Aphelios trading back and forth.
Yeah, and we can expect that with M&M. Getting K2 on a strong support now. Kaiwing's Nautilus has been pretty good too. No surprise to see Frank take that away. But Clement, look, if we're talking about junglers, you know, the trade-off has been Hecarim for Xin, Hecarim for Lee, Hecarim for Jarvan in recent history.
Yeah, that's definitely been a lot of what we've seen. A little bit stronger of an early game coming in from the side of Xin Zhao. I would say team fight and engage potential definitely favors Hecarim into the later stages of the game. And these two teams, in terms of their styles, have been much more about the sort of just 5v5 team fight situation. So PSG, I think they're getting a draft that they're probably more comfortable with, while Frank Esports, they have to think how they're going to angle this. The enemy already has the premier late game AD carry and the premier late game team fighting jungler. So I just do think that if Frank just tries to do a carbon copy, they will find themselves kind of being outmatched in their objectives.
I want to see what goes into solo lanes though, because you already talked about the swap here. The standard Aphelios is up and available. Expect that one to get locked in. But for solo lanes, we've already had 3 against Kurt. We've had the Rise taken away. What else am I thinking about here, Clement? Maybe things like the Jace. Gragas you already talked about if he wants to play some of that team fight facilitating role.
The options are still wide open for the side of Hanabi. He still has Graves and his Gangplank. So he could play a lot of different champions. For Kurt, it is more of a mystery. We don't really know what he plays beyond these 3. And maybe that's PSG's draft strategy. If I'm PSG, there could be an angle where I'm saying, I should just win this standard, and I'm going to try and see what Kurt champion pool actually is. You know, he started this season playing 3 straight games of Gragas, both blind Gragas and counterpick Gragas. So I think it's a somewhat reasonable strategy to do this with your regular season games. And just as a reminder, we have 8 playoff spots, so you don't have to be spotless to get into the postseason.
That's true, dude. Out of 10 teams, right? So 80% make it into playoffs, and the other 2 don't. At the moment, I will just say Hurricane Gaming and Sem9 got to start finding some wins. Otherwise, we're going to know a lot earlier than expected as to who's making those final spots. But onward anyway. Clement mid lane bans with the Orianna, or with the Hecarim, I should say. It makes sense that they're targeting Bayoff here. We've got the LeBlanc as a response. I'm looking at things like Syndra. Rise is already banned away. Renekton, which you guys I know have been flexing towards mid too.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of those come out, and this has been a Hanabi staple for multiple splits right now. I really like the way that both of these teams are maneuvering. They definitely understand the goals of their opponent. For PSG, they are reading Frank Esports as like, we got you beat in the team fight. Our picks just eclipse you. So we're going to make sure that you don't have an early game angle to play through, and they're taking away these tempo champions coming in from Pretender, making sure he doesn't get any of the assassins. Even though he plays mainly mages, mainly the Victor and the Vigar, it has been rumored that Pretender does actually really strong stuff and really disgusting stuff on the assassins too. So they're making sure they cover their bases. Well, Frank, I'm not surprised about this. Like, I'm not a fan of Gnar, but I'm really not surprised about Kurt picking up Gnar. It feels like the most, standard, just like, I'm a blind pick top laner. What do I do here? I guess hasn't worked out. I'll go Gnar.
We'll try something else. All right. So we get the standard from Kurt. PSG now know what they're playing up to in that top side. Hanabi is a bit of a baller. I'm going to admit this top lane has been around for a while, and I don't know what to expect anymore. Hang on. Okay, GP comes through, so there we go. I could have believed the Darius. Honestly, from Hanabi, I could have believed the Darius. I don't know why.
I am with you on that. I feel like
Are you?
we have seen the Darius in the PCS. I will make that clear. I mean, Darius was played by MFT and did absolutely nothing.
Oh, well,
but
what a shame.
Okay, so we are gonna get the Vex. This is lovingly called Poppy after the club in Taiwan.
Yeah.
Does look like she has a hangover there, and I like this pick a lot. This is a champion that does offer you that sort of angle to snowball the game early. That's exactly what they need out of this draft, and Pretender looks happy. He's going to show Bait how to show off some of those mechanics.
I hope so, because again, Pretender on this Vex was a really big pick. One we're talking about that happened yesterday, where Pretender had a really good game on it. So I'm looking forward to see if he can pull it out here against PSG again. 8-1 as a team. Now, after being CDBC Flying Oyster moments ago, with back-to-back games, PSG pulling out a draft, Clement, that's, I guess, not too dissimilar from the one they just beat. Bar the Jace up at the top lane. This time around, we do have the Gangplank, a bit of global pressure to go along with Hecarim.
Yeah, I like how Corgi is on the same page that I am. I feel like I have like a connection with him after like chatting with him about the league and stuff like that. In terms of compositions, I have to say, hands down, PSG has a far stronger composition. They have a team fight edge, and Syndra is no slouch in the mid lane. We have seen how the laning phase goes. Syndra versus Vex. Very little Vex can do early. So I just see PSG being able to scale very comfortably up. For Frank Esports, they have a lot of problems with this comp. It is very low on engage. It does not beat the comp for PSG if it goes late in a 5v5 team fight. So I think their only out is Pretender. Pretender has to show that he's the real deal. He's not faking it. He's actually going to be the potential starter for PSG.
But how does he get through the lane here? Clement, I've seen this matchup before, and we know what Syndra does in the lane. A lot of time, Vex can be quite passive. I'm curious to see how it goes with the range applied, because Faye and Juhan had really good synergy in the last game, and it was the level 2 gank through mid that flew CTBC Oyster right into the sun. And as they blew up, I mean, it was all coming through Juhan's early aggression. So as we enter Summoner's Rift once again, let's see if PSG can keep it going. Because the other exciting thing about this matchup is, Clement, if PSG win this, they're first. They're dead first, and they have it over Deep Cross Gaming and CDBC Flying Oyster. They're currently tied, but this would put them on a 9-win streak and hold their position firm.
That would be absolutely insane. It would mean Beyond Gaming is the only team to take down PSG, and it would just break all of our narratives that we've had so far. Take a good look at that credit card. You have to understand, like, League of Legends does not sell their IP cheaply, so if those credit cards are pretty lit, I would.
That's true, dude. I've been looking for them. I don't think I have one in Australia.
Oh man, I'm just saying that those credit cards are so amazing because they actually give you a cash rebate on stuff like Netflix and Uber Eat, and I use those every day. So it's like,
oh my lord,
free money. Wow.
How do I get this in Australia? What are you telling me this now, dude?
Yeah. It also has Disney Plus too, so it basically covers all your streaming needs and your food needs, and you also get a rebate for the Play Store games.
Oh my god.
It just covers everything. It's so
Clement.
nice.
Okay, well, I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to contact... apparently there is one in Sydney.
It is very much tailored to gamers and guys like us that sit around all day in front of a screen and just, like, order takeout. But hey, that's exactly who we are.
I mean, I cook my own food, but still, look, you said streaming needs, and I was right there with you. I'll bring you into this game, though, because...
Sure.
As we kind of,
let's go.
as we kind of round this out, and I'll talk to you about the credit card afterwards. The biggest thing I wanted to point out first is that, you know, again, for PSG, after their last game, we see the adaptation in draft. We see the big power picks coming through. Juhan on the Hecarim this time around. He has Hanabi with the level 6 to support him, and he has a strong mid that he can bully out, or at least get Bay to help him bully out through this early laning phase.
And that's why I see so few opportunities for Frank Esports. As I've been saying, I think their only real chance is to turn this into a snowball skirmish game for Vex. And the only way they do that is if they can outplay the 2v2. because Vex cannot do it on her own. There is no world where Pretender is going to be able to come out of this lane against Bey and have the opportunity to roam. So what we're looking for are those timings where Pretender does have that passive up. You get the fear, you get the knockdown, that gives you a solid chance at a gank, but it doesn't really come around all that often, and you don't get a choice on when to expend it. That's going to be the sort of medium-term cooldowns that we're going to have to be looking at, and also just Holo's pathing. He cannot get spotted out. If he gets tagged, there's no way that PSG aren't going to fall for that trap, and I just don't see him being able to influence the 2v2 if they have his position.
Which is why this early ward is kind of spotting out K2, actually doing something quite similar. K2 moves up, pings go down, and you saw Bey straight away positioning towards Juhan in the top side. He's still doing that on the side of the lane. He's giving space. He has a feeling they're still there. And as the fear misses, as the Mistral Bolt does the same, Bey still playing towards the top side of the map.
This is so smart from the side of Juhan. You can see him in the top side. The amount of wards that they've been able to drop, just 3 wards plus the scuttle in the top. Of course, Bey is going to play towards the top side. He's completely safe right there. And this is the problem, I think, that happens with Frank's strategy and just being eclipsed in terms of the champion picks is if you have to bet everything on the early game, the only thing the enemy has to do is just play safe. And that's far easier to do than forcing 2v2.
Already in a winning lane matchup as well. I mean, Hanabi feeling pretty safe, and the ward dropped is going to make number 4, Clement. Actually, number 5. The vision is literally like a summoning circle. And Holo, as he only spots out one, Hanabi now pivoting a bit, knowing that Holo's towards the top side.
Yeah, you really feel like Diablo is just going to pop out of that red buff area, and you open all the seals there, and that's kind of sad for Frank. That pretty much just means that it has to be a lane gank, and Zinza has not been known to pull off lane gank. So I'm really trying to see. I'm squinting to kind of find an out for Frank, but I just don't see it yet. Maybe they have to wait until those objective fights to catch PSG out.
Okay, well, at least around those objective fights, we'll have Meganar, we'll have Pretender's Shadow Dash as well. I should call it what it is, Shadow Surge. Juhan walking over a ward, though, and Frank Esports having their own little piece of vision. Pretender knows that Juhan's now on this right wing, and so does Holo, but all it's going to be is a deep control ward and Juhan to continue to wait and see if he can set up Bey.
Really nicely done from Juhan. The amount of wards that he's gotten in this jungle is just absolutely obscene.
Yeah.
There's no angle that Bey can actually be touched here, so he will remain completely safe. And looking across the map, the only point where we do have some advantages is going to be in that bot lane, where we have seen Eminem get a sizable CS lead. And this just means that I like what Frank are doing. You know, Zinzao is coming in from the bot side. It might be too late.
Pretender just hit 6 as well. Juhan jumps on in. Scout of the week, beautiful. A fear doesn't matter. They don't need the dive from Juhan as he runs in, and PSG with first blood yet again.
I just love it when teams can pull off these plays where they're pushed in on the bottom side and then they still manage to find plays on the mid lane. So incredibly well done. And we have to remember, this is PSG nailing down the win condition for Frank. They know, as well as we do, the only win condition that Frank has with this composition. And I'm sorry to say for Pretender, I feel like he's just going to get focused again and again. Holo should have spotted that ward, but I'm not sure why he's not clearing it.
Either leaving it to K2 or was looking somewhere else and just didn't pay attention. He's going to start up the Dragon at the very least as bot has to push in. So for Frank Esports, despite being down 1,000 gold, they will have the first take of the objective on this map as Kurt is now dealing with the horse. But Juhan close to hitting level 6. That ult from Kurt, he might regret that as Juhan now hits 6, but Hanabi doesn't want to continue any further forward. Kurt will just back off and Juhan will do the same. Now having full topside priority, because, again, they know that Holo is bot.
Yeah, this should just chain into an easy Herald coming in from the side on PSG. I do have an interesting stat that I pulled today. Currently in the PCS, if you rank the teams by their Herald control rate, you get the exact standings. It's not even a placement off. That's just how important Herald control has been so far in this game. So I do expect that play to sort of develop here. Less Frank can find something, it really is down to Holo, and I feel like he needs to do a lane gank, but he also needs to do a lane gank where Juhan can't counter because he is down a level at this point.
I mean, he keeps walking over vision. There's more. Every step of the way, Holo tracked out, and Bay, of course, is going to be backing off, does some good damage to the jungler. And 10 seconds before this Rift Herald spawns, Clement, we have Juhan who's able to go back and get a Bummy Cinder. It's only a double longsword for Holo. And I'm tracking the buybacks here because it feels like there is a mixed damage profile coming through. Hanabi close to getting to that Trinity Force, but Eminem with an item advantage in the bottom lane. We'll see if it makes a difference. There's red buff to be stolen, yes, from Holo. Juhan has to ulti out, and you know what? For Frank Esports, this invade, this turns the tides.
That was a great win from the side of Frank. They get the red buff, and I think most importantly, they force away the huge combo piece from Juhan. You don't want to get caught in cannon barrage with Onslaught of Shadows. That's just the fear timer and the damage ticks going down on you is going to be very painful. So I think they buy themselves a chance to turn back their fortunes on the upcoming Herald. This should, like, basically mean PSG are not going to contest it until they have the Onslaught up again.
Well, buying their time. For now, it's just over to his camps. And Juhan still will have a small, CS lead, but it wasn't anything like it was when he was invading the camps on Holo, so at least it brings back something for Frank Esports when it just looks so calm and like this progressive lead was taking over the game. And Clement, you know, I might be saying that, but I feel like there's still one thing that remains true, and that PSG still have a lead through mid, a CS lead, however so minor, in the bottom lane and top lane. Like, all lanes are still leading, if now jungle evens up.
Yeah, that's just the strength of PSG across the board from you. I think Hanabi got a great counter pick in the gameplay. He started this game with a 23-9 CS lead. I was watching the top lane, able to just shove it in, and he's very close getting turret plating as well. I like the build going for a more aggressive option here in the Triforce. I don't think he's getting much pressure from Kurt, and you can get the Triforce procs with the barrels as well, so that just means a lot more damage potential onto the backline compared to something like the Divine Thunder.
As Juhan in the bottom side, meanwhile, is trying to group up. Now, that GP we're talking about with the aggressive build, he's going to help out here as Pretender's going to get ulted, run down, Juhan deletes him. And now that Holo's in here with the Crescent Guard, he might have to burn a flash or worse, but it's way too late. He's trying to take down this Hecarim, flashes away, but Bay was waiting so patiently. 2 kills for the Syndra, and PSG once again mid-jungle triumphs.
Oh, that's just a chef kiss to how that execution went down. Pretender, no flash right here. Kurt trying to get something back, but doesn't get the follow-up. And if you could see that play, they were so confident in executing that. Just flashes over the skill shot, makes sure that he doesn't get feared and can output all of his damage. Juhan charges in with the easy finish up, and Holo's just caught between a rock and a hard place. Juhan still had his ultimate to finish off onto Holo afterwards.
We saw Frank Esports forcing Juhan out before. But when that ult came through and when that window was there, it didn't look like Frank Esports were able to get anything, right? The Herald was sitting there waiting. Pretender was caught out once again, as he might be now. Solidly laying down the cannon barrage, and Kaiwing doing work. Bay comes in with an auto-ignite, gets his 3rd kill, and it just looks so hard for Frank Esports to survive the rest of this game.
Well, I will say the silver lining for Frank fans right now is that you guys are probably going to hold on to your mid lane for a while. So you're not going to have to look for someone else at this point. It is looking really bad at the moment, and I think this is why Vex isn't considered necessarily a tier 1 pick that we've seen. She does have those issues with mobility and escapes. She's not as mobile as something like an Ahri. Though she still needs to play a tempo game, and now we have Eminem getting caught on and flash burn.
Yeah, flash cleanse, wants to turn around for a bit of damage, but he's already taken the summoner, and PSG will take the trade, no brainer. Onto the dragon. Holo's not down here, so Juhan's just going to take this himself. And going across the board, going from what I can see, it's a 4,000 gold lead at 12 minutes into the game. And I just love that PSG, make one little mistake in the jungle, buy their time, and then that ultimate usage comes back to being phenomenal.
Frank Esports did not find any opportunities during that window of Onslaught Shadow being down. There's no ganks happening whatsoever. And right now they find themselves in a very awkward situation where they have 1 Mythic compared to 3 coming out on the enemy side. So PSG can do whatever they want at this point. I would not be too surprised to see them starting to take over the jungle. The mid lane is already down, so both sides of the jungle are just wide open, and I'm also questioning the vision control here by FAK Esports. You could see double pink wards towards the top side, but that's not territory they can hold on to. If you look at Bay right now, you can just walk into the top side. No one's going to stop it.
Very, very true. I mean, the dives are coming from the right as well against Pretender. He has to back all the way up to his inner side turret. And there's actually a bit of a squad from PSG going on for the time being. While that vision you talk about, focus up towards the top side, it's like PSG have this little alert in the back of their mind that they're just going to keep playing towards bot.
Yeah, and I think that's... if you know anything about FAK Esports, you know where their damage comes from. So that's, I think, the absolute correct call here. Kurt is so far behind. It might not look like it from the CS, but you do have to remember that Gameplink also gets extra gold coming in from the parlay. So the gap there is a lot larger than you would assume just based on the scoreboard. The bot lane's going down, and FAK, they just don't have the damage anymore.
And look, they're getting caught out in their own jungle. Hollow here, blasted before he can even say hello. Eminem, though, getting a good trade, but Scout of the Week turns around with a Solar Flare, and that's a flash from Kaiwing. Meanwhile, on the top side, Clement, how much more wrong could it go with a solo kill to Hanabi?
How did he get a solo kill without even using the ultimate? I need to watch that again. That's just kind of ridiculous in my mind. He didn't even flash. What?
I don't know, dude, but teleport was used by both, so we're going to find out very shortly what happened up there. Is he just got the turret too? 5,000 now the lead. PSG are certainly looking like the best team in the league. As we watch again, oh no! Oh no! He burnt to death.
He was trying to help his teammates.
Trial by fire hit him. He got the TP off, but it was the second hit, and he just died as he finished it off. So Hanabi just clipped him to death.
Well, it looks like PSG are pretty prejudiced against Yordles, which is something I have been preaching. Yordles do not have souls. They cannot ascend to heaven. So I like this play from PSG. You know, they're definitely showing their furry friends the fury that they deserve. And let's see if Hollow can get out of this one.
Well, a Solar Flare, a Scout of the Week. He does flash in time, but Bay, that ult was overkill and not needed. The Spectral Bolt once again, the Mistral, excuse me, from Predator. Oh, Pretender, wow. I'm trying to talk him up, Clement, and he's not really a Predator this game because Pretender is 0-4, and he can't help out his jungler anymore.
Definitely not. We do have the only Mythic on Eminem. Maybe they could do something here? Well, the earliest Mythic, sorry. Unfortunately, Kaiwing just too tanky. Proxy Aftershock walks back. Completely fine. Oh no, Kurt! Run! Run, Kurt!
It's happening again. Doesn't have ulti though, but Hanabi has Flash. Grasp was not sought out, and the Pretender sits under turret. Look, one lane bad. This lane looking just as horrible. A Pretender gets hit. There's the ultimate coming through. The fear, no. Everfrost dodged away from Unified. Didn't even burn the flash. It was simply a heal. And now Pretender has to get out of it.
Come on, that's ridiculous. You gotta show the mid laner some respect at this point. It's kind of weird to see a mid laner being on the same level as Unified. But he should have been able, I feel like, to get a little bit more. He does get the heal at least. Navi?
Let's go, Eminem. Bit of movement speed here for Hanabi, and Eminem has his flash in about 10 seconds. Ulti with an orange, and unfortunate. Eminem, the strongest player you talked about, but he can't kill Hanabi, and Clement with 8-1 on the scoreboard. It looks like PSG is seeking out more blood.
It definitely does, and here are the trials and tribulations of Kurt.
Yeah. How will he be remembered? A good dodge from the Solar Flare, but as that's some anti-synergy from Juhan and Bay, it will still be Bay who's doing a quarter of his HP every Q.
I will say, Kurt, this game, he has pulled his own weight. Don't forget, never forget, that PSG had to triple ban Kurt.
That's right, dude. Because Kurt's the best top laner in the world right now.
It definitely is. I can't fault them for their strategy. I mean, at least they know he plays Gnar, so you know, that's valuable information.
That's another one on the list. Next time it'll be a Gnar ban and the Tryndamere Akali ban. Take it all off of him. Because look, it's either way, it's been rough. He's been versing Hanabi's like one of his best picks. The Gangplank is something that no one else is really touching, but this man now with a Hull Breaker is just so unstoppable.
Yeah, Hanabi basically turned around and told Kurt, "I'm the captain now." Takes away his hat and just sails off into the sunset with all of his gold and his bounties. So yeah, we've laid this game out from the very start of draft that there was very few win conditions Frank Esports could rely on. And, being an honest caster here, I think we have come to the point where we have exhausted all those possibilities.
We have. We looked for options. Again, you talked about how strong the early game had to be, like the skirmishes from Pretender, from Hollow, how it all syncs up. None of that's happened. The laning phase, again, from Bay, influenced by Juhan, has been a great deal of focus, and the rest as Interrupt comes through, and Kurt gets ulted out. Hang on, he survives, but how much longer? And, okay, wait, and yeah, he's gonna die. We're looking over here now as Bay finally picks up that kill on the top side. Polo with his ulti, K2 left alone. A good Moonlight Vigil from Eminem though, but Kaiwing, as he buys time, is giving that space to Unified. The fear not coming through, he's stunned up. This is not the same Vex game from Pretender as Unified resets again, and PSG have still won another fight.
A 4-for-1 trade in their favor. Eminem put up a good fight. He got that one kill down, but as the rest of the members of PSG started to congregate, there was really no chance here. I'm not sure what you do in this spot when you're Frank Esports. Like, the game is already beyond 10,000 gold difference before the 20-minute mark. This is just so insane to watch, because if you think about this game, PSG did not rely on anything that was about mechanical outplay.
Nope.
They didn't try to force dicey situations. They simply walked in when they had leads. They flashed in and used their abilities, and that was enough. That's just, I think, the strength of a powerful macro game. As we take another look at this one, PSG fighting off a little bit more than they could chew earlier on. Eminem, as we see, does get a little bit more gold on the board. We'll see if that leads into any items.
Into that as well. He ultied, then Gale Forced, and flushed out immediately. It was like, oh, that's too much. That's a bit too much. I love the bloodthirsty intent, though.
Yeah. The personal history between these two were so interesting. Like, Eminem was kind of the go-to guy because Unified, a lot of times he couldn't travel by airplane. So he did get a lot of chances to play at international events when Unified, in theory, should have played. So I always felt like Eminem was the guy that was... We saw as having potential and having that exposure to international events that could potentially lead into, the understudy overtaking the master, as we have a bit of a side show on the back end of Kurt. He got out. Good for you, Kurt.
Kurt survived. It was nice to see. Eminem as well is just looking, he's only 21. So got a long career ahead of him as well, and he's been playing, you talk about it, on HKA in Worlds 2019. Remember the Crash roster, and I feel like this guy is what gives Frank Esports their wins, but this time around, the whole roster's burning. I don't know how you put out that fire, Clement. We've already talked about it. There's not really a way at this point, with both solo lanes being so far behind and making up the majority of the deaths on this team.
I'll be honest, all I want to see right now in this game is just a perfect ace from PSG. I want to see the extent of the execution from PSG. You just picture it in your mind. Onslaught of Shadows riding through Kurt, riding through the Yordles and just cutting them down left and right. And then you have the cannon barrage boiling their furry bodies. And then the super mega death rocket comes in, blowing them to smithereens. It's art.
You sick man. You sick man. Clement 2. Here we go. You might actually get your wish. And funnily enough, just as you said, the bodies are being burned. Holo trying here for Juhan, and Kurt coming on the wing, but as he's about to go Mega Nah, the damage is too much to deal with. PSG acting like the best PCS team here in spring, and boy oh boy, are Frank being outclassed in this game.
I'd give that an 8 out of 10. They missed one Yordle, so no full marks for you.
Unlucky, dude.
And they did loot one person. But yeah, I think that execution was actually pretty much spot on. I love the use of the red buff to kind of hide their advance there. They get the cut off on multiple angles, and we saw a very beautiful scatter the weak across a cannon barrage. So, you know, a lot of things were done right there. The Baron fake to start that one up. Okay, Kaiwing, you get nothing for that Leona ult. That was actually pretty bad. But the rest of it, I can't argue much about it. It was absolutely beautiful. They getting that crowd control down on top of the damage ticks of Hanabi, that was a pleasure to watch.
Well, still, the game goes on, surprisingly enough. PSG, we kind of talked about this in the last game. They're not the team that will go explosive with the lead, right? Like, they are still playing well. They're opting into these fights and looking for blood, but they're still playing it out very mechanically. All right, side lane time, let's push up. We have a Baron, apply the pressure, slowly whittle them down. Frank Esports, we know their base is going to break at one point. It's just about how long it will take at this 23-minute mark.
I'm looking at Kurt right now, and he still doesn't have a mythic item just yet.
Oh, he doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I guess the triple ban does work out in the end. Maybe force him to a bad matchup at the very least. So, yeah, things are looking kind of grim. Frank Esports right now, I think you have to do one thing. Contender, you have to get a kill onto Bay.
Yeah.
He's already half HP. It's not that hard.
Set him up,
looking for the angle.
He really wants it. He's like, dude, I can get it. He goes for it, and it's a miss. And you know what? There's the tool that we wanted to see. PSG are just going to go to top side now. And we're going to have to wait, Clement. I think it's 30 more seconds till Pretender gets another try.
Oh, that's a very short cooldown.
It is.
On that ultimate. Yeah, I actually didn't know about that. Interesting to see. He has to showcase that he should be in the conversation of PSG mid laners. There we go.
Gonna be rooted up. Eminem cleanse on the backside. The cannon barrage doing work though, and as Kurt jumps in, he's already lost his support. Frank Esports stuck against the fountain, against the best team in the PCS. I'm calling it now, Clement. 9-1 is what they're going to move to here as Scout of the Week comes through. Holo surviving with the Crescent Guard. Kurt ulting only Kaiwing back. That won't do too much. And as Frank get obliterated against their own base, it is PSG with back-to-back games here today that skyrocket up to the clear first. I'd be scared as the rest of the world watch in. PSG are coming.
PSG are coming for the top spot. At the very end, Frank does kill the raid boss in Bay, and you can see Bay is not very happy about that situation. He had a perfect game in hand, unfortunately. Ruined by Eminem and his antics. So, again, I feel like PSG, what we're seeing from them is just a very strong coaching staff. An understanding of where the opponent composition is going. They blocked out their tempo game plan by taking away the LeBlanc and the Ahri. That was incredibly smart from them. And I have to give a lot of props to Corgi. I feel like both of these games was pretty much just Corgi, like, outbraining the opposition coach and just taking it home easy.
Really clean drafts, like, again, cementing that point where PSG in both games. Draft difference has been something that you and I have been talking about quite a lot. You've been outlining how big it's really been, and what we saw here is, well, all right, first pick AD carry comes through, but then there's always options here for both Juhan and both Bay. And that mid 2v2 is really building up to be, you know, I guess a stronger mid 2v2 every single time we see them play.
Yeah, I really have their coordination improving, and it's not just between themselves, it's also with the lanes as well, as we saw some actually we didn't see any ganks into the side lanes. Okay, so scratch that, but the synergy amongst themselves at least has been showcasing a lot stronger. If I'm looking at this draft again, I think a big thing to point out is that I don't think these three top lane bans were necessarily against Kurt. I think they were sort of practice bans. So they are trying to play completely towards the bottom side of the map. They're trying to play completely mid-jungle centric, and they don't want to give jungle attention elsewhere. So they're basically handicapping themselves to try and play out this style. I'll be honest, I don't think PSG really needed a triple ban Kurt. I think they're pretty happy with him getting Gragas, so
Yeah.
I would read this as more like testing your own composition.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, you know, put Kurt into, I guess, something he's less familiar with, but more importantly, maybe they just tunnel visioned him because Hanabi wanted to play GP. He just wanted his own pocket pick, so he's like, I know he's going to pick Nah. What else is he going to do? And had a really good time within the lane. Like, a solo kill came out. Laning phase was sublime all round. I'm not surprised that Hanabi almost did more than Unified here in this game. But it is, again, no surprise that Bay did the most when his laning phase was built on bullying out the Yordle.
Yeah, no sympathy for the Yordles, but that was kind of painful to watch here. I think that's a big showcase of why Vex doesn't have the impact that a lot of people thought he would have.
Yeah.
We all watched the sort of solo queue clips from Faker. He's like, he's on a 21-game win streak. What the hell is this? He's just playing Vex over and over again. And then you don't see it in the actual competitive scene that much. I think there's a very good reason why. She is a tempo champion with low survivability, and the timing windows when you can actually go in and land crowd control are actually fairly narrow, so she's not as easy to snowball with. And there goes our man Bay, 8-1-8, beautiful scoreline. We had a lot of questions about Bay, and I'll be honest, I still haven't seen, complete mechanical outplays coming out from this player, but in terms of macro sense, in terms of synergy, you can't really doubt the guy.
Man, Bay is, he's getting set up for success, but still, like, a decent enough laning phase to give the compliments all throughout. 33% damage. The biggest thing I want to point out is that Bay 2 games in a row now has been a bit of a monster, and I've already said it so many times, but I'll say it once more. He and Juhan are syncing really well together, and the rest of PSG, with their experience, are taking over in their own lanes.
Exactly, and as Sun Tzu has said in the past, the best strategy for war is not to fight one at all, and that is what we get from PSG, as they don't take any mechanical gambles whatsoever. It's just solid drafting, strong win conditions, be at the right place at the right time, and the rest will fall in place.
I mean, it's clean stuff. It's what you want to see from the team that now holds the first spot. PSG moving up to 9 wins here. They are the firm first. As, ladies and gentlemen, we go to a break. PSG may hold first, but who is going to hold last? Sem9 versus Hurricane Gaming. The battle of the wooden spoon is going to be a messy one, and I'm here for it. See you in a bit.